So having only one H1 tag in your post is going to be good. So remember, when somebody clicks on a link, so let's just say they do find a title tag engaging and they click on this link here and they go to that website, you want to start out with having that particular H1 tag, because the H1 tag, especially with the keyword in it, is going to signal to Google, hey, we're organizing our page, and because it's an H1 tag, it's important. We're structuring the page according to best practices. So having only one H1 tag in your post is definitely helpful. Having multiple tags, H tags in your post, help organize the page a lot better. So we want to add that targeted keyword in that tag, and your header tags should be relevant to the content. So if we go back to our example of the using dried figs with banana breads, well, the title says California Fig Banana Bread. And remember the last segment when we were talking about high quality content? Well, look no further than including a video into our content. So not only will this video help keep the engagement high, but it breaks up the monotony of the page. And it's from a third-party source, so it adds credibility to the page. So adding a video based on the last segment of high-quality content definitely helps with ranking high on Google search. So following hierarchical structure, that means putting those H tags in there. H2 tags help break up the content. And we want to avoid repetition of H1 tags on your different web pages of your site, meaning don't just put the same H1 tag with the same keyword in it and keeping it blasé. We want to make those H1 tags exciting to read, but also used appropriately to break up the content. So remember, all white hat techniques. We want to avoid hidden tags. We want to avoid stuffing keywords. We want things to be natural. We don't want things to be forced. And your H1 tag should be 20 to 70 characters. Don't make long H1 tags. So if we go back to our page example, a short, sweet tag here, California Fig Banana Bread. It's relevant to the content. It's short, sweet, and breaks up the monotony of the content. And more importantly, and again, any content you have on the page should always answer the user's intent. Remember, people are using search to answer questions, find information. Our content should be able to answer that for them. So, according to John Mueller, Senior Webmaster Trends Analyst at Google, header tags would definitely help Google for rankings in the search results. So we want to use header tags. So when it comes to URLs, we want to use hyphens and avoid underscores. So if we look at this URL here, this uses hyphens, fig and banana bread. So it's all broken up with hyphens. That's a best practice. Remember, canonical URLs. A canonical URL signals to Google this is the original content. So we want to use original content. And if you have multiple sources of content out there on, say, different websites, we want to use a canonical tag to signal to Google, this is the original content. Please index this content. And it doesn't hurt to use a favicon in URL, meaning a small icon. It helps to break up the monotony and help your URL stand out. We can add targeted keywords in the URL. So again, looking at the URL here, I could see we're using targeted keyword as part of the URL structure. Fig and banana bread. And notice the H1 tag is fig banana bread. So it's all consistent and it flows naturally. URLs that are no longer existing, then we want to be able to set up a redirect for those URLs, meaning a 301 redirect is a server response for Google that says, hey, Google, this page is no longer available, but we permanently redirected it to this page, which is now available. So that's what a 301 redirect does. It helps signal to Google and all the other search engines that if the page is no longer there, that's fine. You're just going to go to this page. This is the page that's permanently there now. And another thing we want to do here is if you have mobile URLs, you want to include those in the sitemap. And we're going to hit on that in just a minute. But all URLs should be mobile friendly as well as desktop friendly, meaning take into account those best practices. Keep your URLs short, use hyphens, put the keyword in that URL, and make it easy to understand. You want to avoid capital letters in the URLs. The URLs are case sensitive, so go lowercase. You should always go lowercase on the URL. Readable URLs, again, the rule of thumb here is if you understand what the URL is, then Google is going to understand what the URL is. So the shorter the URL, the easier it is to read. The easier it is to read, the better chance you have to rank high on Google search. So according to Backlink 2, URLs that are shorter definitely help you rank. So we want to be able to shorten those URLs. Keep them short and sweet. Don't make them long and unreadable. So those are some optimized ways or on-page elements that help you optimize. Now we want to look at some website level factors that will help you optimize and rank high on Google search. So good site structure provides better crawling for search engine bots. And what do we mean by that? Well, we mean having your site organized in a fashion that Google's going to be able to find all the pages. So what do we mean by that? Create a logical hierarchy structure. So if you're selling shoes, you're going to have a home page, break the structure up into men's shoes, women's shoes, children's shoes. Then under men's shoes, you could have it by brand. It could be Nike, Puma, Adidas. On the women's side, it could be Nike, Puma, Adidas. On the child side, it could be Nike, Puma, Adidas. And so you want to keep the structure, flow, in a hierarchy. So we want to balance the amount of subcategories within each category. So the men's, if it has Nike, Puma, Adidas, the women should have Nike, Puma, Adidas. And so you want to code your site navigation in CSS or HTML, meaning we want to be able to use something that Google is going to be able to index. So most sites are built in HTML, and that's what Google likes to index. They like to index something that they could take back to their servers. And then more importantly, build a comprehensive structure for internal linking. So internal links mean that if you're on a site, you should have natural links pointing to other pages on your website. So to keep the flow going. And we don't want to have unnatural inbound links. You always want to have natural internal links to keep the flow of the user going from one page to the other. So here I could see, as an example, all the ingredients in this recipe. Well, this has an internal link to another page on our site. And this happens to link to a page where somebody can buy the ingredient. So it's a natural internal link. So John Doherty of Credo has claimed that one of the biggest changes that he can make in fixing the Credo website is architecture. So for example, in Credo, John Doherty has increased the organic sessions by 74% and pages per session by 41%, just by changing the site architecture. So you'd be surprised by changing the site architecture what that will do to engagement. And so let's turn our attention to secure versus non-secure. So what we mean by that is securing your site. We want to make it sure that compliant with certain protocols. And so if we go back here, we can see that this particular site is compliant, it is secure. HTTPS means it has a secure license, meaning the site is secure. So Google likes secure versus non-secure. So non-secure would be HTTP. So we want HTTPS as our protocol. And what that means is just enabling SSL certificates. And that means when you enable an SSL certificate, that means your domain or your protocol is going to be turned to HTTPS. So Google prefers sites that are secure versus non-secure. So if you use HSTS as a protocol, that adds an extra layer of security over the HTTPS. And HSTS prevents cookie hijacking. So adding multiple layers of security always helps. In my opinion, if you have an HTTP website, a non-secure website, you should look into buying an SSL certificate, getting your sites flipped over to HTTPS, because what's going to happen is your URL structure is going to change. When your URL structure changes, Google's going to recognize that because they're going to index your site. And when they index your site, they're going to see those secure URLs. And that's going to work favorably in your favor and help you rank higher on Google search. So websites using secure or HTTPS have a higher chance of ranking. higher. So HTTPS is a ranking signal because Google indexes those pages. So let's also talk about sitemaps. So sitemap is one of the most important ways to improve your website ranking. Why? Well, because sitemaps are a way to organize all your URLs into one file. So we're basically going to prioritize all our web pages in a sitemap. So if you go to any particular website and you type in sitemap XML, you're likely going to see all the pages on your website. So usually the sitemap is located in the root directory. So if I type in sitemap.xml, I'm going to be able to see all the pages in my root directory. And I can also prioritize them. I can also alert Google as to how often they change. And every page is going to have a date stamp associated with it. So Google can actually see how often it changes. So remember, we want our content to be updated frequently. So if content's not updated frequently or it's not fresh, then Google's going to see that that date stamp, that last modification date. So we want to be able to make sure our content's updated frequently. We want to let Google know that we changed it frequently. And we want to be able to prioritize our pages, let Google know, hey, these pages are important to us. So all that can be set up in a sitemap. We want to be able to add canonical versions of URLs in the sitemap. So we want to be able to add all our original URLs in our sitemap. And so we always want to build dynamic URL sitemaps for larger websites. And what I mean by dynamic URLs, that means that if I look at this sitemap and we're always adding content, let's just say in the form of a blog, well, guess what? We want those pages to be added to the sitemap as they're published. So as we add pages to the blog or to the site, then they should automatically be added to the sitemap. And so in effect, what's going to happen is we're going to be able to see the sitemap grow with more URLs. When the sitemap grows with more URLs, then that means then Google's going to index more pages. They're going to index more fresh pages. So they're going to be able to get those pages that are just published quicker. So that's the whole idea behind dynamic sitemaps, is we want to be able to capture all the URLs just as they're published. And we want to be able to maintain our sitemaps. And so I would always recommend a dynamic sitemap, but you can always create your own sitemap just by going to a tool called XML Sitemap. So if I just type in XML Sitemaps into Google search, here I could see XML Sitemaps Generator, and I can be able, if I have a small website, just create a free and simple sitemap on my own. When XML Sitemaps creates it, or your platform creates a dynamic sitemap, either way, the sitemap's going to sit in the root directory. And then what we want to do in turn is let Google know where that sitemap is. So in Search Console, we want to be able to submit the sitemap. So you're going to add the sitemap, you're going to let Google know where it is. It should be in the root directory, and it should be called sitemap.xml. And when you do that, Google's going to be able to take those URLs and index them. So we could see we submitted 528 URLs, Google indexed 521. So one thing about URLs here is when we create a sitemap, we're putting all our URLs in there. We do not add no index URLs in your sitemap. And what that means is that any URL we don't want Google to index, we're just going to exclude from the sitemap. Okay, so we want Google to take all the URLs we want indexed and put them in the sitemap. So according to Edgy, using sitemaps for SEO can increase your website's visibility and help you get indexed. Why? Because what you're in effect doing is taking all your URLs that you want indexed, you're telling Google how often they're modified, you're telling Google which ones are important, and you're submitting that to Google. And so Google's going to be able to take all these URLs quicker, index them quicker, and when they're indexed quicker, you can get ranked quicker. And when you get ranked quicker, you can get traffic quicker. So that's the whole idea behind sitemaps. So let's turn our attention to page speed now. So one of the last factors for our website, besides architecture, making it secure, and adding sitemaps, is we want to take a look at how quick our pages load. Here are some tips in order to optimize page speed, because ideally the quicker a page loads, the more engaged the user is going to be. If it takes a longer time for the page to load all the elements of that page, then what's going to happen is the user is going to get impatient, maybe leave the website, all together or go to another page. And so we want to be able to optimize images. So any image that's of large size in terms of megabytes, we want to be able to optimize that, compress the image. So that's one way to speed up page speed. We want to use a simple website design. HTML with CSS or cascading style sheets. Just a simple design with simple hierarchy and website navigation structure. So nothing fancy, nothing complex, just a simple website design with optimized images. We want to leverage browser caching, and we want to upgrade the server response time, meaning all your files are sitting on the server. So when somebody goes to a web page, the server is serving up all of those files, the images, the text, etc. And so we want the server to respond as quick as possible. So when it comes to page speed, we can look at the factors affecting page speed in Google Analytics. So if I go to Google Analytics and I go under behavior and I go under site speed and I go to overview, I'm going to be able to see what my average load time is for my site. And ideally, we want our pages to load as quick as possible. So that means anything under 4 seconds. Anything 4 seconds or higher, and it's likely the end user is going to leave the page. There's a correlation between page load time and bounce rate. And so what Google actually does is give you speed suggestions. So if we do have a page that loads slow, we can just go to speed suggestions in Google Analytics. And we go to speed suggestions, then Google's going to be able to tell us, hey, this particular page load fast, this particular page loads slow, and if it loaded slow, why is it loading slow? So here we could see the home page, as an example, is loading on average of 7 seconds. Well, if we look here, they're going to give us some suggestions. So if I click on this page speed suggestions, it's going to load a report and a tool called Page Speed Insights. And basically what it's then going to do after it's done running is it's going to tell me all the ways in which I can optimize my pages. Not only for desktop, but also for mobile. So here I can see for desktop or for mobile, I can look at some ways in which I can optimize it to increase page speed. For example, sizing my images properly, server response time, reducing my server response time, avoiding multiple page redirects. So there's a lot of opportunities that we can do to speed up page load time. And all that's found in Page Speed Insights, and all that's found within Google Analytics. So remember, optimizing code, minimizing redirects, optimizing your images, upgrading your server response time, all of those are factors. And so again, you can go into Analytics, Page Speed Insights, and you can see exactly what Google is recognizing as what's lowering or slowing down your page load time. So Google takes site speed as one of the most important ranking factors. Why? Because they're going to rank pages not only with high quality content that are relevant to the keyword queries, but they want those pages to have a good user experience. So if somebody clicks on the page, then the user should be able to see that content fairly quickly. And so that's why it's such an important factor. So the quicker your pages load, the chances of you ranking higher are going to be better. So according to Web Performance Today, Walmart, as an example, experienced a decline in conversions. So what they did was looked at their page speed. And when they looked at their page speed, you'd be surprised what that did. Just increasing it from 1 to 4 seconds or decreasing it basically increased conversion. So there's always going to be a correlation between how quick a page loads and how engaged the user is. Because if the user is engaged, they're going to stay on the site. And if they stay on the site, then their chances of converting are going to be higher. So just even 1 to 2 seconds increase in page load time will make a world of difference in terms of engagement and conversion.